a second, or you lose some speed for a second, YouTube will automatically lower the quality for you and you'll still be able to continue watching your video. But with YouTube Live, when you press that go button, you're committing to YouTube that you're going to provide a consistent video feed at a set quality and a set bitrate, which means that your internet needs to match that. The moment that you can't, or that your internet drops even slightly, then it's going to be less than ideal results for anyone watching. One of the features that helps YouTube Live really stand out, especially when compared to something like Facebook Live, is that it actually lets you set the quality of the stream that you want to broadcast. So Facebook Live is limited to a 720p stream, whereas YouTube will let you broadcast anything from 240p right up to 1080p. Now in each one of those quality or resolution settings, there is a bare minimum of data that YouTube is looking to receive in order to provide you with a stable broadcast. So for example, with a 1080p stream, the minimum data that YouTube will be expecting from you is 3 megabits per second, which is the bitrate of the video file that you're encoding will be encoded at 3 megabits per second. So what that means is, in order for YouTube to be able to receive a 3 megabit per second video file from you, your upload speed needs to be at least 3 megabits per second in order to push that video file consistently to YouTube. So for a 1080p video, as we just said, the bare minimum that YouTube will expect for you, or your bare minimum bandwidth overhead, is 3 megabits per second, with the maximum being 6 megabits per second. So that means that YouTube won't use any more than 6 megabits per second, even if you've got insanely awesome internet. For a 720p stream, YouTube needs a bare minimum of 1.5 megabits per second and a maximum of 4 megabits per second. And for a 480p stream, YouTube requires a bare minimum of 0.5 megabits per second, or 500 kilobits per second, and a maximum of 2 megabits per second. If you're not able to meet that bare minimum speed, then you won't be able to push the consistent data through to YouTube, which means that you're going to be introducing things like dropouts, bad audio, or really bad quality. Now I hear people say all the time, that's fine, I've got really good internet, I've got 20 megabit connection or a 50 megabit connection. Now that's all well and good, but that's normally in relation to the download speed, not the upload speed. What we're talking about here is upload speed, because you're actually uploading your video stream to YouTube. In a lot of cases, your upload speed is actually way lower than your download speed. Fortunately, it's really easy to check your upload speed before going live on YouTube, and that will allow you to pick the right quality and bitrate settings so that you're minimizing the risk of any issues. So before you go live, head over to speedtest.net. If you're on a computer, then you can run a speed test there on the website, or you can download the speed test app to your iOS or Android device and run it on there as well. So when you run a speed test, it'll actually do 3. Quick tests. It'll test your ping, it'll test your download speed, and it will test your upload speed. And remember, it's the upload speed that's important for live streaming. Alright, so you've run a speed test. What can you do if your internet speed isn't fast enough or isn't stable enough at the speeds that you need to get the quality that you want to YouTube? Well, the first thing that you could do is look at the potential to drop the quality of the live stream. So if you were trying to do a 1080p stream, which meant that you needed a minimum of 3 megabits per second upload, you could look at maybe doing a 720p stream, which will drop the minimum requirement down to 1.5 megabits per second upload. If you're on a shared internet connection either at your home or office, then there's the potential that there's other people there using the internet and chewing up all your precious bandwidth. If that's the case, you might be able to limit their usage, or you could look at a 4G or an LTE connection. If you are going to be using a 4G or an LTE connection, then just be aware that those speeds can fluctuate dramatically. So make sure that you're well above your minimum threshold for your bandwidth. Most live streams today on YouTube are pushed out at a 720p resolution, which means that you need a bare minimum, as we mentioned before, of 1.5 megabits per second upload speed. Personally, if I ran a speed test and it came back saying I had a connection of 2 megabits per second upload, and it was a solid 2 megabits per second, I still probably wouldn't do it. I just like to have a bit of a buffer in there because you never know what's going to happen. So for me, the bare minimum for a 720p live stream will be 2.5 megabits per second upload, and I mean bare minimum. It sounds so simple, but you'd be surprised how many people don't know how fast their internet connection is and don't run a speed test before they go live on YouTube. And it's probably the biggest thing you could do to help prevent any unnecessary issues while you're live on YouTube. If you found this video helpful, make sure you hit that big subscribe button, leave us a comment, and give
Looking to jazz up your stream with something like this? Or maybe something like this? Or maybe you just want a smooth stream with no stuttering or lag or frame drops. Not to worry, friends, I got you covered. This is DIY in 5.
Host Trisha Hirschberger, and today I'm going to give you a crash bang course in streaming software like OBS, XSplit, Shadowplay, StreamElements, and Streamlabs. From broadcasting software options to streaming apps and all the options in between. If live streaming to Twitch or YouTube is your goal, and honestly, it's so much fun, I don't know why it wouldn't be, I think you'll be ready to jump right in once you realize how simple the software side of it can be. Let's break it down. When it comes to broadcasting software, there are a range of options out there at various price points, so we'll go over some of the most common. Open Broadcaster Software, or OBS, is the go-to choice for the budget-conscious, since it's absolutely free and works on Windows, Mac, and Linux. It's very reliable and doesn't take up a lot of processing power to run, and because it's open source, there are constantly new plugins being released, meaning you have tons of customization options. The downside to being open source means there's no real customer support, and it is a bit difficult to navigate for streaming beginners. That being said, I learned on OBS and can personally vouch for how awesome it is. Multiple scenes, source transitions, media types, the sky's the limit. Another popular streaming software is XSplit. XSplit has two versions, Broadcaster and Gamecaster, with Gamecaster being more basic and easier to use than Broadcaster, but giving you less options overall. Both XSplit versions are beginner-friendly with a setup wizard button that will figure out the optimal settings for your stream. And when you're just starting out, that thing can be a lifesaver. They have great support, and the free version will let you stream up to 720p without a watermark. The paid version is $60 annually, removes the watermark on higher res streams, and adds features like stream delay, streaming to multiple services at once, and more. In addition to scenes, sources, transitions, and importing media, they also have a new VCam feature that will attempt to key out your webcam background, mimicking a green screen, but using software AI. In my testing, it's very hit or miss, but feel free to try it out because VCam is totally free. The last broadcasting software we'll mention is NVIDIA Shadowplay, which comes bundled with NVIDIA's GeForce graphics cards. Shadowplay encodes using your GPU instead of your CPU, which can drastically help your stream quality. Shadowplay itself doesn't offer any overlays or even scenes with multiple sources, i.e. a webcam in the corner of your full screen gameplay. There is a way to use Shadowplay with OBS, however, using the NVENC encoder from NVIDIA. It takes a little more know-how, but it is a good option if you already have an NVIDIA graphics card. Now let's move on to apps that work alongside your software, and there are many. These are what really personalize your streams, from animated tip jars to loyalty point programs to custom on-screen notifications, and can be a huge factor in earning income from streaming, taking you from hobbyist to professional. StreamElements and Streamlabs are probably the two most common, and they are both completely free. Each have their die-hard fan base, but will offer you monetization and personalization features out the wazoo. In addition to those that I listed above, you can do custom merchandise, on-stream music requests, animated overlays, and face masks. The list goes on and on. Streamlabs even has an integration with OBS called Streamlabs OBS, or SLOBS, where you get all the features of Streamlabs right in your broadcasting software. Just like regular OBS, it is open source, free, and has tons of features, plus it uses less screen real estate and processing power. The downside to SLOBS is that it's still new and still beta-ish, so you may run into some bugs or hardware incompatibility. As you can see, streaming software is pretty readily available for low to no cost. So what are you waiting for? If you already stream regularly, which of these programs do you use? Let us know in the comments. I personally use XSplit to stream to Twitch and OBS to stream to YouTube, with all of my alerts and fun features set up through Streamlabs. I only haven't made the switch to SLOBS because it's not compatible with my current capture card, but I do need to play around with it more. Make sure to check out our previous video on our streaming hardware recommendation. Pretty cool, huh? And easy.
Looking to jab.
See you next time.
I don't get it.
What? People watch you play video games.
Okay, but why?
Because it's fun to hang out with friends. It's just like when we were little, except for way more CPU intensive than the sit next to each other on the couch days. Hey everyone, and welcome back to DIY in 5. I'm Trisha Hirschberger, and in today's episode, we will go over what you'll need to consider when building or buying the ultimate video game streaming rig. Let us worry about the hardware so that you can focus on the stream. Now, if you're brand new to PC building, check out our Build Your Own PC series by clicking here. Then go ahead and subscribe so you don't miss any more DIY tech tips. For the ultimate streaming setup, many pros have two PCs, one to run the game and one to broadcast the stream. For the purposes of this video, we'll assume that's not in the budget and you're looking to do it all on one device. Luckily, there are some great pre-built options out there specifically made to game and stream off one CPU, like the CyberPower PC Pro Streamer or the Alienware Area 51. Cramming so much functionality into one case does have its downside, and the main drawback is the price tag. Let's break down the hardware that you'll want to consider if you're going to go it alone. When it comes to streaming, your CPU does most of the heavy lifting. You'll be relying on your processor to encode video, run chatbots, loyalty point notifications, music players, etc. And all the while avoiding dropping frames, which lead to a not so nice viewing experience for your audience. When budgeting out your build, I'd advise you to dump some serious moolah here, especially if you have your heart set on streaming in high definition. To output 720p or more at 60 frames per second, you'll want to choose a CPU with multiple cores, impressive clock speeds, and hyperthreading doesn't hurt either. If you're building a budget streaming rig and are fine with streaming below 720p or 30 frames per second, then this can be achieved with a less expensive processor and with tricks such as optimizing your broadcast settings, capturing video from a console, minimizing the amount of windows you have open while streaming, and avoiding CPU-intensive games. Now, even if you're doing all of those things I just mentioned, I still wouldn't try this with less than an i5 series or equivalent. If you're someone who likes to have music players, chatbots, loyalty points, etc., all open in addition to your broadcasting software and the game, then RAM will be another important piece of the puzzle. Most streamers typically use around 4 gigabytes of RAM while streaming, so I'd put at least 8 gigabytes on your priority list. If that's not in the budget, then 86 the Spotify, Discord, Streamlabs, Nightbot, or whatever else you like to run with to avoid stream stutter. We've talked a lot about the fun additions to your streams, but what about the games you'll be streaming? This is where a streaming build differs from a traditional gaming build. If you stream low-demand games or capture gameplay from a console, then you may be able to save a pretty penny by foregoing a dedicated GPU and get a better experience by putting that money into your CPU. Now, if you stream games like, say, The Witcher 3 all the time, then a GPU is a must if you're planning on streaming and broadcasting from the same PC. Let's quickly buzz through the rest. For a motherboard, I'd look for something with extra slots for expansion. For storage, consider if you'll want to locally record your streams and how long you plan on keeping them on that hard drive. For the case, I'd recommend getting something with noise dampening so your audience isn't listening to your fans go on and off the whole stream. Sorry guys, I know that I'm being really loud. I'm not one of those streamers that's just loud all the time. I just want to make sure that you can hear me over my stupid system that's really, really loud. And And for your PSU, head over to PCPartPicker.com to calculate your power needs for different setups. Side note, this site also allows you to compare component prices and reviews, and it's a lifesaver for new and experienced builders alike. So that's that. Stream away and build your community the way you see fit now that the hardware is out of the way. Kinda. I mean, it's never really out of the way. And you want to constantly keep an eye on updating, but that's why there are shows like this one. Pretty cool, huh? And easier to do than you think. Let's get you streaming. Hello, everyone. Welcome to DIY in 5, the show where we make tech simple for the everyday user. I'm Trisha Hirschberger, and this episode is near and dear to my heart because we're talking all about streaming. Live streaming content, whether it be gaming, creative, informational, or just hanging out, is a ton of fun and can be a great way to connect with others in real time. But I often hear people say that the only reason they aren't streaming is because they don't have the setup and don't know where to start. I assure you, getting a streaming setup is much easier and more affordable than one might think, and I'm here to walk you through it. First, let's look at your hardware. Some people stream straight from their consoles, and while this will serve to share your gameplay, it's extremely limited in terms of features and customization. For a truly professional look to your stream, you'll want to stream from a PC. Surprisingly, you can get a fairly mid-range PC and still stream at decent settings depending on what type of content you create. If you're hoping to stream a hardware-intensive PC game and broadcast from the same computer, that's where you'll have to invest more into your hardware. Check out this previous DIY in 5 we did on streaming PC hardware to find the right fit for your needs. Next up, after your PC, I'd look at your capture card. A capture card allows you to capture content from another device and stream it on your current device. If you want to stream console gameplay or from another PC, this is how you feed your video and audio to your streaming PC without affecting your PC's performance. There are a wide variety of cards out there with various quality, input, and customer support options across various price points. Some are external, some are internal. For most people, an external capture card with HDMI input-output that records HD quality will do just fine, like the Razer Ripsaw HD, which I personally use in my home setup. For the pros out there looking at fancier cards like the Elgato 4K60 Pro, keep in mind you'll need a beefy computer to handle what cards like that are throwing down. If you invest in one, you'll need to do the same with the other. As far as displays go, I recommend at least 2, although you can 100% do a budget setup with one. If you're operating off one monitor, you'll just need to arrange your windows so that you have your broadcasting software, notification window, chat, and game or program that you're streaming all on one monitor. Totally doable, just a little crowded. With 2 monitors, most streamers prefer to put their primary broadcast program or game on one monitor and all of the technical aspects of their stream on the other. If you want to have a face cam in your stream, there are many options out there, including some with built-in lighting specifically for streamers, like the Razer Kiyo, or you can invest in lights and a webcam separately. Basic 720 or 1080p webcams will do the trick for most streamers and usually cost under $100. You'll want to make sure you frame your shot so that you are close to the camera to easily be seen. And when it comes to lighting, a basic ring light, LED panel, or softbox lighting kit can give you the flexibility to stream any time of day or night and still have a professional look. However, if just starting out, you can improvise with home lighting or set up right in front of a sunny window. Now, if you want that green screen background keyed out look, there are some cameras and software alternatives that try to get that look, but in my experience, none are as successful as setting up an actual green screen behind you. It's a pain to set up, properly light, and tear down, but a cool look if you can pull it off. Your microphone is just as, if not more important than your camera, since some viewers spend more time listening to streams than watching them. And while poor video quality can be forgiven, poor audio is the worst. Depending on the content of your stream, you may want to use a headset microphone, desktop microphone, or even off-camera microphone. Most streamers use a USB microphone that connects directly to their computer, and there are a variety of options built specifically for live streamers, like the HyperX Quadcast mic with a tap to mute button right on the top of the mic, so your "Mom, the meatloaf" moments stay your little secret. As always with sound, you'll want to think about the echo in your room. Generally, carpets and curtains are better than bare walls and hard floors. Think about maybe throwing a rug down, hanging some curtains, or hanging up some soundproofing panels if this proves to be an issue. Other hardware considerations include gaming controllers, keyboard mice setup, and these are more a matter of personal preference. If you're doing a lot of typing on stream, you may want to consider a quiet keyboard with dampening rings or key switches built for silence. Another very popular hardware option is a Stream Deck, a panel of buttons that you can use to switch settings, scenes, or load sound effects on the fly. A recent addition to my setup has been a silent USB fan for myself, because it's hard to keep cool under pressure and under lights in a 4+ hour stream. It's the little things. From a software standpoint, there are many different tools you can use to customize your stream exactly how you want it. OBS Studio, XSplit, and Slobs are some of the more popular broadcasting software options, and they all have a free version to get you started. I've done an in-depth XSplit tutorial on my personal YouTube channel that you can check out, but most of them have a similar setup of scenes and sources that you can set up and then live switch between on the fly. Sites like Streamlabs and Stream Elements allow you to even further personalize your streams by
Hi there, I'm Trisha Hirschberger. Welcome to my Twitch channel and the home of the Dragon Riders. Look at me, stealing this carrot. Don't you want this carrot?
Oh, that's good.
I cut my parachute too early and pancaked.
I'm so classy today.
Get up. Yes!